Candace Clark, also known as Candace the Farm Plug, and I work to advocate for small Black and Indigenous farmers that are interested in doing more holistic growing, and also connecting young people and young ideas to the elders in their communities. So that's my thing. I'm a farm plug.
Small farmers face problems with farm income.
Yeah, so pretty much, and now, right, that's what I was about to say, especially with Corona, and I'm really trying not to talk about it, but there's no way to not talk about it at this point. If you made a lot of your money from like farmers markets or places that people have to gather in more than 10, which is like everywhere, you're kind of in a weird situation. If you do happen to be a large scale farmer and you got migratory workers or immigrants working on your farm, then you got to either up your biosecurity or just accept the fact that, people might get sick and your labor force might be impacted. And these are all different things that affect not only your income, but also your expenses, right? Because in business, the two are related. You can't really separate them, in terms of making economic decisions. So did that answer your question?
But it also seems like as soon as the corona kind of hit hard in the U.S., everybody ran, or thing was, we need food. We need a place where there's food, and it's like almost a I told you moment for everybody in agriculture. Like, y'all have been turning y'all back on small farmers and depending on these big franchises to provide y'all food, and now that this has come to fruition and there's a real problem and you need that small farmer. And
it is a unique opportunity, right? And in this wild way where if you do already have a relationship with a farmer, then you already know where to go and you're going to be straight. But like you said, the average person, unless they have the privilege of knowing where a farmer's market is or being around or just in a rural area where that's the relationship that your community has, then you could be missing out on that. And I wouldn't say it's an I told you so moment. I wouldn't even say it like that, not only from like a marketing perspective, but also just because it's really scary, because these are also your potential consumers. So if they get sick and half your people in your town, like as a farmer, you're taking a risk too by being in the farmer's market at a time like this, but you don't really have a choice in a way if you to still make your money and things. But then it's also an opportunity, again, for innovation, right? So community-supported agriculture, you got things like Blue Apron, where they've been mailing people, sending people food in the mail. And like through CSA's community-supported agriculture. So it's really a time to really, I think, focus on that community aspect. I see this as a beautiful time. It's a golden opportunity for farmers if they know how to take advantage of it.
Speaking of taking advantage, what are some of those apps they have for farmers to it's like delivery services they can do that they didn't. Some farmers didn't on their end. They never took advantage of the technology aspect of being reach out, and this would have been a good time if you had been working on that for the past 3 years. This is that opportunity to implement that type of technology and that type of delivery system to your consumer base that they may have not been paying attention to you, but then the opportunity's there. Now you can jump on it. And that, the
price going up because now you gotta have it. You gotta have it.
The health
at first it was an option.
Health-wise, people are not eating good, and the immune system isn't built up enough, and
again, so that's actually interesting. I'm in the process of creating an app right now that will, depending on your location, it's pretty much a directory of Black and Indigenous farmers across the globe, really. And it's really just starting with, the Tuskegee network and people I know, people and stuff, and just saying, like, if this is what you need, there's an expert that does this in your area, like, you know what I'm saying? Or just creating a space where small agriculturalists and Black and Indigenous agriculturalists can come together and have conversations at a time where we have to be socially distant. And I don't know. I think it's also an interesting time to be a millennial too, right? Because we're young and in this industry, right? So we kind of know how to work Instagram and we know how to do these things. And so, you know, my sister-in-law, she has a whole tech firm where she does consulting and she helps people like transition from, you know, being in the office every day to working from home and doing all these things. And so, you know, for her to be our age and be young and still be, you know, utilizing that youthfulness and that intelligence and that privilege that we have to be able to have grown up with technology, it puts us in an interesting position as well, I think.
All right. If this was January 2020 or December 2019 and we were talking about farm financial situations for the Black small farmer, what were some of those problems or positives?
Some of the positives, well, I mean, I know a couple of Black farmers that have invested into hemp, and it has given them, you know, kind of a rebranding situation. So again, another opportunity to recreate themselves and to come out on the market with something new for their market. So I think that was a good thing. I think that more young people are getting involved in agriculture, or at least are becoming aware of, you know, climate change, the effects that it can have on traditionally disadvantaged communities. Like the Green New Deal, you know, like a lot of people have been pushing for that. And that is something that's getting talked about more and more. Bernie Sanders, you know, him running and doing his thing, I think, and, you know, in 2019, December, he was doing pretty good. Everything was sounding pretty good 3 months ago, you know, in spite of whatever, everything that just went on for him. But, you know, so it feels like a shift in the mindset. And I think that, you know, Black farmers, again, got to be more creative about where their capital and their resources come from. So, you know, the USDA has never really supported Black farmers the way that it needed to. And so we've always had to get creative. So, you know, with cooperatives and nonprofits and just all the different business models, you know, even cooperative extension at Tuskegee, I think the direction that we've been going and our past few conferences have been really positive as well. So, yeah, those it's been some highlights in Black agriculture over the last year or two, I would say.
What's your real true feelings about the Black farmer going into the hemp industry for the next 5-10 years? Do you think it comes out where we have like a lot of multi-million-dollar farmers?
No, not at all. I think that is dangerous because, again, it's like dangling a carrot in front of your face, like where you invest all this money into hemp, and then if you don't have nobody to purchase the hemp to process it, and you know, it's just the infrastructure for the everything after input, everything after the production side of hemp is kind of in place. And so that is a certain element of uncertainty. So depending on what part of the supply chain you're in as a hemp producer, I would say, you know, this is a good time for you or it's not a good time for you. You know, and it's just, people got to diversify their income. It's more than just CBD oil. You know, there's so much more that you can do with hemp, and you have to be willing to do some research and development and invest that time and energy and resources, or at least locate that and finding that to give you the wiggle room to explore and find your niche and what it is that you want to create. That is a perfect opportunity, right, for people to tune in this year for Earth Week, right? April 20th through April 24th is all going to be virtual. And we're going to be looking at hemp. And that's the focus of this year, and just really giving people a deeper dive about why this crop, what is the rave about this crop, and why is everybody so like excited, and what's the hype around it, you know? And so we're going to be kicking it off with like sharing some films that people can watch on their own time. And then we're going to have a deliberative dialogue, like a virtual town hall pretty much, where people can chime in and have some of these conversations, which I was going to talk to you about, Jamal, because you got to help us with that. But yeah.
Where is that?
If not, I want to do it on Facebook, Instagram. Like, I want to just do all the streams so that people can ask questions, so it can be real engaging. I just want it to be super engaging. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's why it's like a virtual town hall, because it's from all over the place, everywhere. You know, because food, it's just such an integral part of our everyday lives. life. And if it's not what you eat, then it's what you wear. If it's not what you wear, then it's, transportation, the natural gas, it's the warmth in your house. All of these things we're gonna be impacted over the next few months just because they're natural resources. And, it takes quote unquote money to fuel the economy. And, we're really looking at in my opinion, not to be all hyper mystical or whatever, but it's a real shift that's going on because we can't keep doing things the way that we've been doing them. Everything about the way that we operate in society today is unsustainable. And we know that. That's why there's an Earth Day. Why do we have to take a day? We have to designate Earth Day to exist so that people could appreciate the Earth. That's crazy. People, we take that mindset and we carry it, and we don't really think about how that mindset translates to our relationships with each other as humans. And, you got wars going on all over the place. Like, people have been talking about World War III for the longest. And what's to stop that from going off right now? When you have states isolating themselves, and, one of the worst things you could do at a time like this in the world, when a global crisis, is for everyone to isolate themselves. That's a scary thing, but yet we live in such a digitally connected age. So what does that mean? How fragile are these connections? That's what I want to know. That's the big question to me.
I'm not quite sure on the train of this is gonna change everything yet. I think for it to change everything, it have to go on a little bit longer. If say it ends in 2 weeks, people will go right back to living. Like, some people haven't changed the way they live yet. People are still throwing parties, still just shopping, just out in the street, having fun, still doing their thing. Kids were on the beach last weekend. So you don't want it to go on any longer than it has to, because if it goes on longer, that means more people have been infected and probably passed away. But
I mean, yeah. So that's the wild thing about it, though, right? It's like a human conundrum where we keep throwing ourselves in this eternal loop of, can we save ourselves? Can we heal ourselves? No, we can't, because we don't want to. You know what I'm saying? Or no, we can't, because I ain't got the same problem that you got, so your problem really ain't my problem, even though we got to share space and coexist. So at the end of the day, you can go to Miami, you can party, but guess what? They just put this on the news last night, is New Orleans, and how much New Orleans, nobody's been talking about New Orleans. But over 1 week, they had 1,000 cases pop up. It was Mardi Gras. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And people was down there for Mardi Gras. So it's like, you can go ahead and party and get it out now, because you ain't gonna be able to do it much longer, and if it does happen, if it does last longer, then that puts government officials in a place where they have to then scramble and make more provisions for people to be able to exist. Because the longer it lasts, the more intense it gets, like you said, and that's people who ain't gonna be able to go to work. And the average American is 2 paychecks away from being homeless. A lot of people don't know that, but if you know what I'm saying, because you don't expect something to happen where you don't have your job. But if you work in the service industry, which is agriculture based, if you work in Popeyes or something like that, not only is your risk heightened because you still interact with people all day, you touching money, you doing all this, but you're also not, you know what I'm saying? If you work in a different service industry job, like a bartender or something like that, your job just got closed. You're not making no money. So that's, if this happens for 2 more weeks, how are you paying your rent? That becomes the question.
There's a lot of, there's a domino effect of one overlooked thing. I guess multiple parties overlooked it, didn't take it that serious, and then the domino effect of this happening in the U.S. affects everything. Everything is affected. The economy, our social lives, education, our food system, our religious practices. Everything changed in, I guess, a week and a half.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's certain things that when you learn them, it changes you, and right now the United States, we've been talking about universal health care. You know what I'm saying? We've been talking about this stuff. And now we clearly see there are more beds in prisons than there are in hospitals. So what is that saying? And for all the people in prison, how are they living right now? What's going on with them? We haven't even started talking about that. You know what I'm saying? These people live and how they supposed to be six feet apart? That don't make sense. They live in cages. So, I mean, if they got visitation, so if they don't get visitation, then that's like a violation of human rights almost. And if they do get visitation, then they're still exposed to the virus. So what does that mean for them? And what does that mean for our community? Because we've been, unequally impacted by that. So, they're, like you said, it's a domino effect for all of this stuff.
A lot of kids are out of school. How could farmers go by making sure kids in the African-American communities, low-income communities, are eating during these this break?
Much.
Well, I guess the school is out for the rest of the year.
For one, when the Farm Plug app comes out, they can go ahead and download that, right? Shameless plug. Then, two, what they could do is this is a perfect opportunity to kind of build that relationship between local food systems and the school system and education, right? So in Chicago, they have shut down Chicago public schools, but the schools are going to remain open for students to be able to come in and get meals every day, because that's a reality, because everybody can't eat when they go home. So I think, now more than ever, these are the time for the people that we don't really thank, like the cafeteria lady and the man who drives the bus and picks your kid up every day. Like, these are the times that those people are essential. And when we think about essential personnel, we can't just think about doctors. We have to think about teachers. We have to think about people that make society work. And it is people like bus drivers and the cafeteria lady and the principals who organize and make these things, capable of happening.